Hi, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. We will be covering AWS Marketplace from the seller perspective. And my name is Maneen Golden. I'm a Senior Manager in AWS Marketplace responsible for seller onboarding. And I'm really appreciative that you're here today. Just a couple things of note. If you do have questions for the end of this webinar, please use the question bar in the webinar control panel and submit questions, and we'll write those down and I'll answer them at the end of the webinar. So let's get started. So program overview. What is AWS Marketplace? As many of you know already, AWS Marketplace is an online store that makes it easier for customers to discover and compare, provision, and begin using software for building their products and running their businesses that is available on AWS. AWS Marketplace benefits for buyers include a broad selection of software that runs on AWS infrastructure, greatly simplified provisioning so that users can have software up and running in EC2 in a matter of minutes in just one click, and simplified billing so that end users will receive one bill from AWS that includes both the cost of the software and the cost of the infrastructure. Key marketplace benefits for sellers, our particular audience today. Marketplace offers a very low-cost, simple way for sellers to market and make their software available. And the key benefits for sellers are product discoverability. As you've seen on AWS Marketplace, we've stood on the shoulders of Amazon.com and made browse and search robust so that end users can easily find what they're looking for. And then sellers take advantage of all of the marketing efforts that AWS Marketplace is doing on your behalf. So just being in the marketplace gets to take advantage of a lot of our additional work that we're doing to get customers to know more about AWS Marketplace. New users, just by listing, you reach hundreds of thousands of AWS customers around the world, 190 countries. So it's a terrific way to open up a new channel. Third, simplified software delivery. Your pre-built and pre-configured machine image, or AMI, Amazon Machine Image, will streamline software delivery. AWS Marketplace one-click deployment is a super fast way to get your software up and running on AWS, and we'll kind of walk through that in a little bit. And then, of course, we take care of all the billing. You get access to utility billing models without having to write new code. We take care of all the metering and billing and collections and disbursement so that you don't have to. And really our goal for our sellers in AWS Marketplace is to take a lot of the overhead out of your hands so that you can focus on building great software. There are 2 ways to list in AWS Marketplace currently and 3 ways to sell software. So the 2 ways to list are, as what we referred to before, an Amazon Machine Image or an AMI. And in that circumstance, you make your AMI available to us in AWS Marketplace, and then we provision that to end users. The software runs in their account, in their EC2 account. The other is software as a service. So if you have software that runs on AWS infrastructure, but for which it's not very clear, it doesn't have to be clear to the end user what the infrastructure is or where it's housed, we call that SaaS, or software as a service. And so perhaps there's a multi-tenant situation, and so that's another way that we list software in AWS Marketplace. When a product is made available as an AMI, there are a couple of ways that it can be priced. One is for pay, and in this circumstance, the seller sets the price for the software, and it doesn't have to be coupled on top of AWS infrastructure, just the price of the software. The price can be hourly or monthly or a combination of the two. And you can set your pricing differently based on the instance type on which it runs when it's hourly. The other way to make AMIs available, or to make your software available when it's distributed via an AMI, is free. So it could be free software, and then the end user just pays for the infrastructure, or what we call bring your own license, or BYOL. And that would apply when you have software that's already been licensed to an end user in another fashion, but you want to make that software available to end users who already have a license on EC2. In that circumstance, you list your product, you set the price as BYOL, and then customers who already have your license can come in and use that software for free on EC2. They do pay for the underlying infrastructure charges, but we don't charge them additionally. And it would be the seller's responsibility to build in whatever license management into their software. For SaaS, sellers list their SaaS offerings. They have to run on AWS infrastructure, and we actually refer the end user to the SaaS vendor's page. So when you list in the marketplace with SaaS, you give us the URL that you would like to redirect end users to. Basic requirements for listing in AWS Marketplace. In general, software must run on AWS. We sell software that is mature and production ready, so we don't list beta versions of software. The business and development software should fit into one of our supported categories, and if you go to the website, you'll see the categories. You should have a strong record for customer service and satisfaction. You should have an emphasis on strong and clear business operations and ethics, and prioritize keeping your software current and virus-free, and that includes the operating system. Technically, AMI should be Linux-based. We don't currently support Windows, but that's on our short list for making available post-launch. AMI should be EBS-backed. We don't currently support S3-backed AMIs. And when you register with us, you submit one AMI in US East, and then we'll clone that to any other regions that you want to make that available. So trying to simplify the process for you. Now for the site demo. AWS Marketplace, as you can see, and as I referred to before, it should be a familiar retail experience. The left panel lists all of our software categories, search on the top, and merchandising in the middle. When an end user has decided that they'd like to search, search results should also be fairly familiar, and browse results look the same way. You can see search for AI cache. There are what we call search results entries that give a quick overview of the products. And when I decide I want to select one of these options, I go to what we call the details page. And every listing in AWS Marketplace has a details page. You can see there's a description above, some of the highlights, customer ratings, support, and further down, more product descriptions and details, support details, additional resources, refund policy, and EULA. Going back up to the top of the page, you can see the pricing box, and there you can see that AI Cache has listed a monthly fee of $25 plus hourly usage fees. And they've decided that they don't want to make their software available on a standard, micro, small, or medium because the product will likely not function well on those type instances. And so the seller can determine what instance types the software should run on. When I've decided that I, in fact, want to subscribe to this product, I hit the Continue button, and I go to our provisioning page. You can see here that there are two ways that I can start running AI Cache Web Application Accelerator. One is one-click launch, which is the highlighted tab, and the second is launch with EC2 console. So going through the one-click launch, the seller sets default settings for the one-click launch. So the version defaults to the most recent version. region, US East. The seller does select an instance type on which they suggest this runs, but the end user can make that change here. You can see each one of these tabs expands the way the EC2 instance type does. Firewall settings and key pair. And if I'm interested in running this based on these settings, I can click Accept Terms and Launch with one click. But first, let's go through the EC2 console launch. And you can see here that when I do decide to accept the terms, these AMI IDs become available to me. So I have subscribed to them. I can't do anything with them now. They're not available to me, but accepting the terms starts the subscription process. But in this circumstance, I can take these AMI IDs and I can launch them any way I want, through the console, command line tools, APIs, so a little bit more flexibility here for the end user. Back to one-click launch, when I've decided I want to accept the terms and launch with one click, the subscription begins, and so does the deployment, and then I get a thank you page. You can see here at the top that that $25 monthly fee has been charged prorated to my account, and that next month's fees will appear on the bill for actual usage. And again, an overview of what I subscribe to and installation instructions from the seller. When I want to manage my software, I go to Your Software, which is in the upper right-hand corner of the global navigation, which is always on the pages. And then I can click there and see I have one active instance running of AI Cache Web Application Accelerator. I can manage it through the software, through the console. I can start running an additional instance. So this is the management area for just software that I subscribe to within the marketplace. Getting started. So when a seller is interested in listing in the marketplace, let me start with a couple of reminders before we get deeper. Again, we just support EBS-backed AMIs, not S3-backed AMIs. AWS Marketplace AMIs can be installed using VPCs and reserved instances. AWS Marketplace does not currently support AMIs with the Windows OS, but as I said earlier, we will be supporting that soon. So currently, free Linux is the way to go. When you submit your product to be listed, again, just one AMI in US East, and then we'll take care of cloning it to any other regions you request. And when you do price your product, again, you just price for the software, so you don't need to build on top of existing EC2 pricing, and you can price your software differently based on the type of instance on which it will run. So when you do want to get started as a vendor to become a seller in AWS Marketplace, the best way to start is from the home page of AWS Marketplace. In the upper right-hand corner of the home page is Sell on AWS Marketplace. When I click there, I go to a little bit of a portal page talking about what AWS Marketplace is, key benefits for sellers, and then next steps. So if I were to hit Introduction to Selling on AWS Marketplace, you can see over on the left-hand side there's a table of contents that really goes in depth into what you would experience as you register on AWS Marketplace. Prerequisites, different ways that you can deliver software, that would be AMI and SaaS, pricing, updating, some best practices for building AMIs, pricing and listing, support, refunds, and any other additional policies. So this is a fairly comprehensive environment. Next, best practices guides. We want to make it easy for you to list your product in the best possible light. So we give you some advice on choosing categories, some security guidance for AMI developers, best practices for building your AMIs, and then some great marketing guidance as to how we can support one another as you list your product in AWS Marketplace. And then when you have gone through all of the different material and you feel like you have a good understanding and AWS Marketplace is a good fit, you can contact us at aws-marketplace-sellers with an S at amazon.com to get started. We'll send you a couple forms to fill out, and we'll get you on your way. So now for some questions. And I just want to get you that email address. We're not quite done yet, but a couple of questions that have come in. So when will we support Windows? As I've mentioned, Windows support is high on our list. I don't have an actual date to share, but please know that it's a high priority for us. Does AWS Marketplace get a cut of our software? So for AMI, products that are delivered via AMI, we deposit 80% of the software sales into your bank account. So we take a 20% referral fee. Next, when will S3-backed AMIs be supported? We currently don't support S3-backed AMIs, and we don't have immediate plans to, but the more requests for support we get, the higher on the list it will become. So please do let us know if that's something that's important to you. When will international sellers be supported? We currently support sellers that have a U.S. subsidiary such that they can submit a W-9 for tax purposes. And international support is important to us. I, again, don't have a firm date on that. Is there a certification process for listing on AWS Marketplace? We don't have a certification process currently. We do, though, make sure that some of the prerequisites that I mentioned earlier in the webinar are met. The product should be in production. The product should have been in production for 6 to 9 months. And we do generally ask for about 10 customer references. It's very important to us that we list known and well-used and well-vetted software in AWS Marketplace. Can people run software elsewhere if sold in AWS Marketplace? And currently they cannot. So product that is sold through AWS Marketplace can only be run on EC2. Can you sell on AWS Marketplace and DevPay at the same time? Yes, you can. So the two products are not mutually exclusive, and you can certainly list on AWS Marketplace and DevPay at the same time. They are different products. We do hope, though, that AWS Marketplace does solve some of the problems that we know people had experienced in the past with DevPay. Does my SaaS product have to run on AWS? Yes, it does. So as I mentioned earlier, SaaS listings are those that run on AWS infrastructure, but the infrastructure account is held by the seller, not by the end user, as it is when we have an AMI deployment. And in that circumstance, yes, the software should run on AWS infrastructure. And I think that those are all the questions we have at the moment. So I will thank you very much for joining. If you're interested in AWS Marketplace or you have any questions at all, please write to us at aws-marketplace-sellers@amazon.com. And thank you very, very much for your time.